if you get on Shark Tank, it's harder to get on Shark Tank than it is to get in Harvard. So, if you want something from not getting a deal, I like to hold that to myself.
I'm going to run with that the rest of my life. Welcome to the next episode of Unmuted. Today we got a special guest, Scotty Trujillo from Copy Keyboard, who was on Shark Tank Season 14, Episode 13.
Yes, that's right.
All right, well, welcome. Thank you for the long drive up here to talk to us on our podcast. And we're going to talk today about that experience on Shark Tank. We're going to share ours. You're going to share yours. And just what led up to that. Talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Maybe even a little bit of social media, TikTok, because Scotty here is got quite the following on TikTok. So he was sharing secrets with us earlier because we need to learn how to be better at having more of a social media stamp and creating stuff. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is fun. We got some pizza before this. I'm feeling good.
Yes, some pizza. Parm really wanted us to try a new place, and it lived up to its expectations.
We're not sponsored by them, by the way.
We're not.
But we should be.
Parm's an avid roundtable for all of his life, but he ventured out and we tried this new place. So thanks for coming up and talking to us about your path to Shark Tank and everything.
I always love hanging out with the Shark Tankers and meeting you guys and seeing what you're all about. Getting to see your whole warehouse like this, studio.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you're better at it than we are and we want to get better, but like just keeping that network of Shark Tankers and everyone that's gone through similar experiences. Maybe some got deals, some didn't, but everyone's out there grinding. Trying to be entrepreneurs in their own different way, and Shark Tank was part of that path of them growing their company. So pretty cool group to be a part of.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of us. I think it's growing, almost 1,600 of us now, maybe more than that. So
that's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if someone has a list.
14 seasons, right?
Yeah, 14 seasons.
1,600 companies.
14 seasons, right? 4 or 5 per episode, right? 20 episodes per season, so 25 episodes per season.
Is that 1,600 that have appeared?
That have appeared
over that time. Wow.
Yeah. But that's a lot less than the number of people that have gotten into Harvard.
Into Harvard, like we were saying earlier.
we were talking about it in the car.
What was this? I want to hear
that statistic.
No,
it says that. It's like on a Shark Tank blog or something. It says if you get on Shark Tank, it's harder to get on Shark Tank than it is to get in Harvard. So if you want something from not getting a deal, I like to hold that to myself.
I'm gonna run with that the rest of my life. What an icebreaker to use. For any kind of
anytime I meet anyone now, it's just like, hey, my name's Parm Duhu. I was on Shark Tank,
Yeah.
Well, I just walked up to the warehouse this morning.
The neighbors, right?
And the neighbor, yeah. So I got out of the car, and the guy's like, hey, Tye Davis. Oh, I've never met this guy in my life.
Yeah.
And he's like, name's Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, how you doing? And he's like, I met Parm yesterday, and he told me about you, and I went last night, and I watched your Shark Tank episode, and he's like, that's the best presentation I've ever seen. I'll take that. I don't think it might have been because we didn't get a deal, but he made me feel special.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome because when you meet someone, they want to know your story, and Shark Tank has become a part of our story, whether we like it, even though we didn't get a deal. So it's just absolutely incredible when you run into people, and they have something to share with you. So, yeah.
So your origin story.
Oh, yeah, the origin story.
With your idea, Copy Keyboard, and then how, what led to you getting on Shark Tank?
So Copy Keyboard actually started as a golf product. Originally, I was on TikTok. I love golf. All right, I don't know if you guys are golfers.
I'm a huge golfer.
All right.
We'll go sometime.
Okay.
What's your handicap?
Probably now a little bit higher up there, probably like 14, 15.
We're about the same then. We'll be good then.
So
I was afraid you're going to say a single handicap.
Oh, no. I was golfing during COVID. I was golfing almost every single day just because I was laid off. So
yeah,
I was golfing every day, and that's when I caught the golf bug, COVID. So I think a lot of guys did too.
All right.
But yeah, it started as a golf product because I thought I was going to make a golf product down the line, make a golf TikTok. But this has been a product that I'd actually dreamed of when I worked at a company as an e-commerce manager. So I was copying and pasting it seemed like 1,000 times a day. And I knew that there had to just be a copy and paste button. I tried to buy it on Amazon. It wasn't for sale, so I had to make it. That's the origin story, really. I was able to, with the help of a high school friend, his name's Blake, he was able to kind of be the investor for a little bit, and that let me kind of just do my thing, sell, and just get this product out there. So that's kind of where I started, is really ground up. I started with 2 copy keyboards. I tried to sell them on TikTok. And from there, I started blowing up, and I put an application in for Shark Tank. It was actually like one of their ads. And next thing you know, I get a message back from them, and it starts the process. I'm like, so that's kind of where we started a little bit.
Okay.
That's incredible. So, I mean, I kind of got it from so was social media your route to like building the company? Like you said, you got it on TikTok, and that's kind of what got you traction?
Oh, yeah. That's actually my number one strategy. Is I didn't have a bunch of money to start up, and I think a lot of businesses are like that.
Yeah.
And so I said, like, number one, advertising is going to be a huge cost and isn't any big business.
And it is. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if I could, number one, take that cost away, I could be successful selling a product. So instead, I kind of just went the route of, I'm going to try to make it viral just organically. And from there, I'm going to make a product out of it. And if it's not successful, then, and I can't do it viral, well, maybe I just don't want to go with that product. So luckily, the copy keyboard hit. Some of my fans, I had like maybe 40,000 followers then. And 2 of them messaged me.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's 39,900 more than we have.
We're getting there.
But no, that's super cool, because it's an unusual business approach that I think may be becoming more common. Just people don't know how to do it, because I think ours wasn't traditional as well. It's not like we went and put a bunch of our own money in it, or we found an investor. Like, we went the crowdfunding route, which we were able to raise funds, and then that got the attention of Shark Tank. But we were able to do it crowdfunding, which it's not a brand new way, but it's not an old antiquated way yet.
Yeah.
But for you, and I think a lot of people now are thinking, like, the question is like, how can I make this go viral? Which you were able to do with a product, and that was like your marketing approach, was make it viral and make sales. And even for us, when we went on Shark Tank, Mark Cuban told us you should be on TikTok, and that just wasn't a channel that we were really good at, and we're still trying to get better at. But that was like your bread and butter right away. You went into it, and
it's crazy how you started there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not even a product yet.
Yeah, not a product yet. But but like I'm gonna build something, and this is how I'm gonna do it. Right.
How many followers did you have when you launched the product? You said you had 40,000 at that time?
I had about 40,000 like golf followers. Plus, I think I told you in the car about my Rosalind story.
Tell that story.
Okay. So this is actually the reason I think like TikTok was even successful for me starting up. So my girlfriend and I ordered some stuff for the holidays. It's around Christmas. We get all these these are big boxes. And so I thought they were all mine. I put them in the garage. There's about 5 huge boxes. I go back out there and I see one has a different label on it. It's for Rosalind of Fresno, California. So I'm like, okay, I didn't really think anything of it. I'm like, maybe I'll make a TikTok video. Do a few videos of it before I throw it in the car. Then we go to the lady's house, and I think we're just going to end up going and seeing Rosalind, say like, hey, sorry, I have your package. It's really moldy.
Yeah.
It wasn't Walmart's fault, okay? I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
So I end up going up to the door, and my girlfriend's recording me from the car, and I ring the doorbell. I'm like waiting for her. It's one of those Vivint doorbells, so I was waiting for her to talk to me. Anything? No, nothing. So I just left it at that, and I said, if anyone knows Rosalind of Fresno, California, what's in the Walmart box?
I have a okay, cool, yeah.
So it's kind of funny, because that video started going viral real quick, up to 1 million, up to 2 million, 3 million, just keep climbing. And next thing you know, a few days later, everybody's trying to figure out who it is, Rosalind, in the comments. Turns out that a girl, in New Mexico, she was watching TikTok when her dad on the couch heard it, and he said, wait, I have a sister in Fresno named Rosalind. Let me give her a call and see. So they text her a picture, like a screenshot of her house, because it was kind of in the video. And she says, that's my house. I'm Rosalind of Fresno, California. So it was like just this hilarious coincidence.
That's crazy, yeah. Okay.
That this all happened. It went viral. It was at the right time, because there was a girl, Jenna Liston, that she was the Fox 26 anchor, and she does a lot of TikToks as well. So I reached out to her. I said, look, I got a really interesting story. Is there any chance maybe you'd do like a bit on it? So she interviewed me, she interviewed Rosalind, and next thing you know, it's history.
And
So,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. What year was this?
That was in 2021.
And 21, yeah. I mean, lots of things to take from that. One, it's crazy what can go viral.
Yeah.
And bring you, mass followers for that reason. But also, I think it alludes to your personality too, making it really fun, kind of like a scavenger hunt for Rosalind.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And then on top of that, you were, brave enough. You just reached out to an already like influential TikToker who's a newscaster out in Fresno, right?
Local, yeah. Fresno.
Local, but she still had an audience, and so that just goes to show you, just reach out because you never know what that might do for you. Not that's what you were thinking about. That's business me thinking. It's like, what might that do for you? But it was just a fun thing at the time. And then boom, you got a big following, and then you're like, I'm gonna launch a product because I got a following.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I can't believe that's how that happened, because now I feel like people are gonna be listening to this and they're gonna try to do the same thing, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Be in the business book of like things to do.
Yeah,
like, those are just things that happen, and it happens for a good reason.
I get other people's mail all the time. I just go to the post office.
You gotta start
and return it like an idiot.
Their houses.
I just return it like an idiot. Like
and hope that they don't answer the doorbell so that it's a mystery.
That's a mystery. Yeah.
But
like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, that might turn out to not work in your favor. Yeah. But that's so you're doing it just interests me. You're doing a golf TikTok before. Like, what was your content about? Just golf in general?
Oh yeah, well I love golf. It was usually like I do some fun trick shots or I do like cool angles. That's usually what it is. Like I would say my videos are more like high quality and eye catching. That's what I try to aim for. And so it would just be a plethora of stuff. I also did a NBC, their golf app. Ran an ad for them too, so that's another one of my golf videos too that I have on there. So that one got like 1 million
I'll have to go
views.
look at your golf content.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get some tips for my game.
No, there won't be any tips.
No,
But.
all right. All right. So you launched product, 40,000. You apply for Shark Tank. Now, was this at the time that Shark Tank was still a virtual submission, or was this in-person casting?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it was all virtual. It ended up being it was a little ad. I just put my email in and I think my phone number maybe, and a little quick blurb about what I was doing, what I was selling, and kind of my following on TikTok at the time. I'm like, I didn't really expect to hear back, and it's like 2-3 days later, I get an email from him. I'm like, my heart's rushing. I'm like, is this real? Like, this is the real Shark Tank? So that's kind of where it started, and I just kept going with it, and like, I didn't believe it at every step either. I'm like, no,
all the hoops, right?
All the hoops. Well,
all the hoops.
So you mentioned steps, like, and we know this because we went through it. But for people out there, like, it's almost hard to quantify how many steps because there's a lot of in betweens. I think that you need to do. But like, what? Generally speaking, was the steps from submission of that email to landing on the show?
A lot of accounting, making sure your numbers are right. It was a lot for me, making sure like all my ducks are in a row. I want to make sure when I go on there, when they ask me about my inventory, I want to be able to tell them like the honest truth, and I want to be able to fully say like I'm doing my best at this. So that was mainly what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to be at a point in my business where I could go out there, be confident with what I'm doing. I had some sales, not a ton. I think like when I got on there, something like $50,000 worth of sales. So nothing really big, but
respectable. But
yeah, for me, that's a lot. And I think for like small business owners, that's kind of like
it's kind of when you're starting off. Right?
Starting off.
You're
starting from scratch too.
Yeah, you're starting from scratch. Yeah.
That's hard.
That's
from
hard.
0 to 50, and I know there's people. I think there's all the videos out there that's like your first million's easy. It's your first 10 million. Which I think there's a lot of difficulty in many different steps, but
a lot of it's BS. Like a lot of the stuff out there is not real. Like there's influencers out there that say stuff that's not just. It's like we watched a bunch of videos where there's a guy debunking stuff, right? And
it's one of my favorite influencers. Not influencers. One of my favorite TikTok people to follow is he'll go take other TikTokers who are like, I'm printing $5 million a day right now, and he'll like debunk it, and then or he'll validate some of them. Not that,
but it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
60,000 in sales is how many units is that? Is that roughly 3,000 units?
Right, about 3,000.
Yeah,
and that was like I know you guys hand pack too, and you guys hand ship yourself.
Yes,
like it's like for me 1,500 alone, like when I first hit in 2021,
Yeah.
like that was me staying up like all night, waking up as early as I could in the morning, just continuing Groundhog Day over and over.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
package, ship, go to the post office.
Yeah.
Did you guys experience stuff like that?
Oh,
or
yeah, I think
Yeah.
you.
Well, you know this already, right?
Groundhog Day is the perfect explanation.
But yeah, we had 45 days of that. We ended up shipping 16,000 units.
Oh
And
my God,
Yeah.
thousands.
16,000 units. 6,000 of them were to one customer. And then everything else was Kickstarter and backers and website orders. And so it was absolutely insane. It was 45 days nonstop here in El Dorado Hills, right?
In a non-air conditioned warehouse. Like, luckily, we have a warehouse now that has air conditioning.
Yes.
That can not go under 74 degrees as per
Per our contract.
as per our contract, which another story. But at least that one we didn't have any air conditioning, and it was in the middle of what, May, June, July.
It was right up until July because
Right up
we
until July.
finished what, like 4 days before we went to go tape for Shark Tank.
Yeah, and I mean we're approaching a 109 degree day in a couple days here, so that
Yeah.
it was just brutal. Hand packing, like you mentioned for yourself. For us, the quick story behind that is that we had our product manufactured overseas, but we didn't want to provide them the technology,
The firmware.
and so what we were doing is they were manufacturing it and they were sending it to us in full finished packaging, and so then we would unpack it and then we would
Plug it in.
flash our
And-
firmware on it.
And we were testing them too because this was our first order.
Yeah.
We had no idea what the quality was going to be like.
So we're QAing every device.
every
It's
device.
not batches. We're not taking 100. We're taking everyone and putting the ones that aren't working out of it.
And there were failures.
there was a lot of
we had about
failures.
back in those days we had about a 1% failure rate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
so
high.
It wasn't
Right.
even
Like,
just.
customers that would get one.
yeah. Now it's like our failure rate's like almost 1 out of 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just
which
put
is
on the
better.
shelf.
But it was disassembling, reassembling, and so there was just so much added process to it. It wasn't just like, oh, we got it, reassembling it, which is enough in its own.
There's a cool video that you made back then, right? That
Yeah, I'll
follows
have
the
to-
process, right?
I'll have to pull that out, and I'll
Yeah.
even give props to Pondeep, who's one as part of our company. She was working until the day before she had to get induced for labor, and
Yeah.
so
That's tough.
I
Isn't that hot
have
warehouse?
I have a video and photo of her packaging, and there's times when she's having contractions, and so she stops, and she's waiting for the contraction to end.
Yeah.
And then she continues.
Yeah.
And then less than 24 hours after that, she has your second born
Zia's
in
born.
her hands. So
Yeah.
talk about grinding
It was-
until the
it was-
last minutes.
It was all hands on deck. It was, we had family, we had friends, we had everyone there working, all the way from pretty much about 8 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning because it was nice and cool, all the way till 6, 7 p.m. when it was blistering hot. Every day we're ordering pizza, ordering food. Everyone got paid through food back in those
We
days.
did, and our accountant actually, she's like,
Yeah.
hey, she was doing her numbers. She's like, you guys are spending a lot of money on eating out because we were doing
Yeah.
the delivery stuff, and
Yeah,
delivery's extra,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
charged more. And she's like, maybe you guys just go pick it up or something like that, because she's like, you guys have a lot of money in food.
But we're like, we have no money in wages, so we're good.
Yeah, we're like, we have no time. But so you're packing these things, Groundhog Day every single day. At that time it was what, 3,000 units?
Yeah, I would say actually closer to 2,000 units.
2,000 units.
Yeah.
And so going back to the Shark Tank thing, we talked about the process of the step by step to get on the show. Did you made those sales prior to even us submitting the application, and then you submit the application, and then what happens next after that application submitted? You said they reached out within a couple days.
Yeah, they reached out. I want to say Shark Tank reached out to me within 3 days. And that's when I was kind of like, okay, maybe, maybe there's even a possibility. Maybe I'm even in the realm of being on Shark Tank. And so from there, then it was, I kind of had to, like you guys probably went through the similar steps, but it was almost like Shark Tank helped me build up my business through I don't know if we're supposed to talk about the actual steps, you know what I mean? Everything we did inside, but pretty much I would work with them to get my business to a little bit better point than it was. So all of my files were arranged. So if I were to get a deal with Mark Cuban or Rob, that I would just be able to basically hand them a packet. So they can see my business stuff and they can see my sales. Everything's there.
So just help with the due diligence of like, because I mean, I we're a team of 6 and 7 at one point. So you're a team of 1, which there's so many working parts to a business. Even so much that like, for the most part, I think we could say 4 of us, but 3 of us are, well, I don't know, up and down. But Parm's at it all time. Second would be me, and then the other 2 are, contributing.
They're doing specific things.
They're doing specific things.
So we're like generalists. We're doing a little bit of everything, and they're doing specific things.
Yeah,
right?
even with that, there's so much to keep up to. Like there's taxes in different states.
Every state you have to
file. If you sell over a certain amount, if you sell over a certain amount of units, you have to pay this state tax, sales tax, or this state sales and use tax. And so for you, I imagine like, what you're saying is that due diligence that you have to go through when being on Shark Tank, it allows you to give.
It prepares you.
And like you're saying, it's helping you better your business because it's like, okay, I have to do these things in order to be able to present this the best way I can.
Yes, absolutely. And just even working towards the goal of like being on Shark Tank, one thing I like repeatedly told them, I'm like, if I don't make it on here, that's completely fine. Like, thank you for even letting me make it like this far, because
very humble.
Yeah, I know. No, I was like, if we're not on here, I'm burning this place to the ground. We're done.
No, I was just like thankful to even be in the graces of the Shark Tank president.
Yeah.
And so like even just getting there, being able to build my business up. Once I left Shark Tank without a deal, I was in such a better place for business than I started. Like I felt like I was 10 times what I was before. So just that process, I don't know. Did it make you guys feel like that? Like it sped up
a little bit. So what we had to do was both of us were not. We had different people that were doing different things, and so not both of us knew every little core aspect of the business. And so I think it did help us kind of understand the business a little bit better. But one of the things for us that was a little bit different was Tye was focused. You were already getting focused on the financials anyways.
Yeah, that did shift. Early on, we had one of our other founders who left the company earlier on because to go do other ventures, but he was the finance guy. Yeah. And so then that shifted towards me, and so then I had to focus more on that.
And for me, the production stuff, I was already familiar with it anyways because of the stuff, the history. So I think it was a little bit different because we had a team, and between the both of us, we already had some of it figured out. I do think that the process did help because it helps kind of focus your story. It helps focus your pitch when you're selling it, and you're talking to other people about your product. You have it kind of tuned in a little bit, whereas before it was like, oh, what do you guys make? Oh, this is a controller for online calls, and it does this and it does that, and it's like your story and the way you tell it is kind of random. And Shark Tank helps you kind of drill down on what your pitch is going to be. And so like I remember walking in the morning, and I do there's like a 2.7 mile loop around my house. I'd get up in the morning and I'd do that loop and I'd practice my pitch. And when you're practicing that pitch over and over and over again, like you got it like in your brain, and you know all the important things that you need to say and what order you need to say them in. And I think that's where I think it was valuable for us. I mean, it was valuable in a lot of ways, but that's how the prep was valuable for us. Whereas I think all of our financials and stuff, I think we were pretty comfortable with most of that stuff, even before Shark Tank.
It was just communicating it, and clearly in the way that Shark Tank. You can watch any episode and the questions that they ask, and it's just being best prepared to answer all the specifics. What's your landing cost? What's how much have you done in sales? How much have you done in sales e-commerce versus crowdfunding for us, and knowing the difference in numbers, and then why did you evaluate your company this much?
And our numbers were changing. That was the hard part, right? Because so we were in the middle of ordering our second batch, and so our first batch of inventory cost this much. Our second, cost a lot more. I mean, our first batch cost a lot more than our second batch per unit. Okay. And so when they were going to ask us our landed cost, we were having like debates about like what number do we give them? Like, and we were we were just so scared, and it was silly because we could have given them either number. Either number was true. just point in time, but we were right in the middle of it, and we're like, okay, is it $13.50 or is it $10.75?
Looking back, they wouldn't have liked either of them.
They wouldn't have liked either.
wouldn't have
It
liked
wouldn't have
either at any
mattered.
cost.
But it was just silly. We were just having these silly like thoughts in our head, and then you're like, okay, so what if people see this, right? And thousands of people are going to see this, and they're going to think, oh my God, these guys are dumb because they're spending $13 a unit.
Yes.
And it's like are they gonna and like for us, like that you record for 45 minutes, an hour, not everything gets shown, and so then it comes down to like, are they gonna say the nuance behind it? Like, yeah, it's $13, but $26,000 of all of this cost was associated with just the mold costs, right? And they're not going to get into that detail, and so it was just kind of those we had to mess around and kind of think really carefully about the numbers, because we were scared of what numbers we were supposed to use and versus what numbers were the most reflective of where we were at that time.
They're gonna look at them afterwards, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you get a deal.
Yeah.
They're gonna look at them right after. Like they
Yeah.
told us that they'd look at them like immediately afterwards.
Yeah, their teams go and look at
Their
them.
teams are looking at them like they as soon as you make that deal on TV, they hand that folder over to their prep teams, and they look at
and
it
there's,
right away.
I mean, it's publicly noted there's some companies who may have got a deal on air, but afterwards, after review, that it just didn't.
It falls through in the due diligence part.
They couldn't come together on agreement, because you just have to be perfectly clear with your numbers and understand them, and not try to come across as like they're brilliant, businessmen and women. So you're not gonna get anything by them with saying like, oh, we've did this much in sales, and they're just gonna look at your numbers and be like, okay.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna be on the show either because you're also a liar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so the process, and I really like how you talked about that in terms of like just it makes you do your due diligence and understand your business even more. You should understand your business, but it's going to make you check all the boxes in what you're doing. But that process of getting from first application to getting on, there's one thing that was ingrained in my mind, and that's you're never guaranteed to be on the show.
Over and over
and
again.
over. And I'm sure they've gotten quite used to making sure that expectation's set, because people early on might have thought like, I'm automatically.
I think they have like a little thing that like as soon as they're about to end a meeting, it's like reminder,
Reminder.
tell everyone
not guaranteed
you're not guaranteed to be
on the show. Down to the you can get on there and you record, and they're still like it's obviously it's their show. And
Well, they tell you that even if you get a deal, you're not guaranteed to be on the show, which is crazy. Because can you imagine what would happen? Like a shark would be pissed, right? Because the exposure that you miss out on. But that's what they tell you. They definitely nailed that point home for sure.
We'll never know either, because we'll never know those sharks that didn't get on.
Yeah.
But so talk about in terms of like you're going on Shark Tank. You've gone through all the necessary steps, which is the paper application, due diligence of numbers, the video submissions, just because they want to see your presentation skills. They want to, and I have no doubt for you, because you have a lot of energy, and that's what they're looking for a lot of times, and it's great, especially when there's a lot of energy towards believing in your product and being able to present it. That's what you want, someone that's passionate about a product, and for myself, I continuously try to make sure I have more energy, because I'm passionate, but I'm also a monotone person, as I've been told. But you're getting up there, and what's that feeling before you're making that walk down the shark hallway of like, all right, this is it.
Oh, so okay. I didn't tell you guys this in the car, but for some reason, like I expected to be very nervous, sweating, just like everything that could ever happen. But when I walked out on the stage, like when I'm waiting right behind the doors, like it was just like an overwhelming calm about me. Like, all right, I think I was supposed to be here. Like, this is what I've been trying to do forever. Like, this is one of my dreams since I was a kid.
No more imposter syndrome.
No more. I'm like, I'm here.
Good.
Yeah.
Whatever's gonna happen. I've practiced. Like you guys said, your pitch. I practiced for maybe 2 weeks straight, because I have a really hard time memorizing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm telling you, just to memorize all that and not mess it up was like, after I was done, I said, all right, I'm done.
I've done my job.
I've won. whatever they ask me, that's going to be extra. So that's kind of how I felt. I just felt very like calm. I did have. They asked me if I want anything to drink. I'm like, you got any Coca-Colas? Because I love Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
They gave me like a mini one, and I chugged it in a second. And I'm like, oh, what's the second one? I'm out there like, woo, just caffeine, ready to go. So highly recommended if they offer. Take the Coca-Colas.
Take something, because you're about to be talking for a while.
Oh,
Yeah. And that's another thing, like a lot of people don't understand is like, and we touched on it just a moment ago, but how long were you in the tank for? Because we were in the tank probably for about 50 minutes, roughly.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and so like, how long were you in the tank for?
I want to say, like, after I came out, I thought it was somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. But it's just like when you're in there, it just feels like it's going so fast, and they're yelling at you and pointing at you and asking questions. Like, they don't care. They talk over each other. It's like the word. Like, I wanted to bring like a mom in there, and like, all right, everybody, one at a time.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Like, dude, no, no. But that's part of the fun of the show is they just kind of like they get you kind of razzled and just like that part was a little nerve wracking because I was like, I don't know, did I say the right thing or didn't I? You know,
and that I mean that's the retrospect right after the show and to before I go there, to your point, like it is like you're going in there and you definitely need to be able to manage questions because it's coming from different ways. Each shark has something that's they're thinking about that is a question they want to ask to validate your business or to understand your business. And then for us, we went in there with two people, and so one's on the left, one's on the right, and so you're more apt to have the sharks. I was on the left, so I'm more apt to have Mark and Damon speaking to me. Because I'm closest, and then the other sharks are closest to you. So you're trying to handle questions
from each
from
side.
there and there, and then also make sure that you're mindful of your partner up there and whoever answers the question. That's where we went in with a strategy of financial questions. Tye, you're going to answer. Dev questions, you're going to answer.
Tech questions I'll take. Right. Yeah.
But there's some question. There's strategy, but it only goes so far.
It only goes so far, yeah. Because you're there, you're excited, right? Emotions are running high, right? You're there, and you're just trying to do the best, and you got to cut each other slack as well. Yeah. Right, because you may say something a little differently than the way your partner would have said it, and they may do something a little bit differently than what you would have said, and everyone's like you said, everyone's talking at the same time. They're all talking over each other, and it gets a lot, and you're just trying to do your best, and everyone in that room is just trying to get something for themselves, right?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, everybody has one thing on their mind.
Yeah.
Something different though.
Including us, the
including
participants,
us,
and the sharks. Yeah. And I think an important part of that, and this is a question I'll ask you in a minute, but I'll give our quick story here. Is you do a retrospective, like, I wish I could have done this or that, and that's what you do. And for us, a big miss on our part is we didn't tell our story. And that's huge, is making sure that when you're telling your story, your origin story, ultimately.
So also for us, real quick, was they told us over and over and over to tell our story because we had a good story to tell. Yeah. And so, just as many times as we heard, hey, you're not guaranteed to be on Shark Tank, we almost just as much heard tell your story towards the end.
And it's not just a story, it's our true story.
It's a good story.
It's like where we came from and the reason like I'm so into entrepreneurship or that I continuously try to create companies and it's coming from a background of supporting parents, but just having financial challenges and then wanting to make it to that next level. And then for you, your story is literally like you guys were sleeping on dirt floors.
Yeah, not sleeping, but we had
I made that story up in my head.
Yeah, it sounds better to sleep on dirt floor. We were camping every day. No, but we had dirt floors in our house. So in our house, we actually had a room that didn't have a floor in it. And because it was like an old house and it was an old farmhouse and it had just dirt in this room. And that was our laundry room / pantry. And so can you imagine your pantry where you keep cereal and other stuff? Like there's like gophers digging holes in there. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. And we grew up that way. And, Dad was a truck driver. Mom worked at a cannery. And they were both farm workers for majority of their life. And
sounds like a country song.
Yeah, it is a country song. But it's one of those things where that story would resonate with people because people watch Shark Tank to feel inspired. They want to back people who did start from nothing. Nobody wants to back someone or support
the American
someone.
dream, right?
Yeah, the American
American
dream.
dream.
Yeah, you have a silver spoon in your mouth. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants to back someone that had $10 million and tried 10 different things before they finally became successful. That's not fun. That's not entertaining. Of course that guy succeeded, right? But the stories of where people started at the bottom and they worked their way up, those are inspirational because it helps other people realize that they can do it too. Yeah. And it's not easy, but right. There's a path.
And so with that, again, going to the retrospect part, we went in there and they, instilled that, tell your story, and it goes back to the navigating of questions, which I think Lori at that time had asked us, what's your story and how did you come up with this idea? And so we started answering how did we come up with the idea, with the intentions of going back to what's
Tye's being nice. I started answering. The
intentions of going back. The intentions of going back to what's your story.
This is why Tye's a nice guy, because he said we instead of Parm.
I like that.
But no, it's so. But with intention, and what happens is, you start telling, what's your origin story in terms of Mute Me, and then more questions come from the sharks at that, and then at that point you're going down this trail, and so then that question. Brilliantly a 2-part question where we could answer both of them or come back to that. We just didn't, but that was a huge part of it, which to our surprise, luckily we ended up on the show again.
We left thinking that there's no way, because how if the producers have talked to you and you've worked with producers, right? They've talked to you, they gave you one job.
And
you don't do it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh man, this is all bad. We didn't do the one thing they told us to do, right? So you don't think you're going to air. And so we left thinking we're not going to air. And that was, totally disappointing for sure. And so not getting a deal, that the dynamics of that is.
Did you guys stay overnight like that after that filming, or did you just go home?
So my daughter's birthday was the next day. Yeah. And so we went to the beaches and I felt bad because on Shark Tank they offer, once you walk off, they have someone there just to check in on you in terms of like how you're feeling.
There's a doctor, it's a psychiatrist.
It's a psychiatrist to check on you and they check in.
Yeah. So they're just like, oh, you didn't get a deal. Are you like do you have like symptoms of depression?
Yeah, and initially no, yeah. They were I mean, I remember going up on our episode and we're walking past the people that just went before us and they have tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh man. All right." But and initially you come off and you're still in that shock phase of like, cuz it's like your mind's racing so much in there. You talk to that person, you're like, "Hey, I'm good."
And you're trying to remember everything that happened.
Yeah, and then but the next day was the hardest. More because for me, like I had been lucky enough that I hadn't really had a depression or anything to that point. But the next day, you rewind everything. You're like, it's the shoulda, coulda, woulda things, and it's like, okay, now if this makes national TV, everyone in the nation, including all my friends and family, get to see me fail on national TV. And so you're thinking about that, like, okay, I'm gonna look at as a failure in front of them, and everyone's so excited because they know you're going to be on Shark Tank, and you can't tell them
what happens. Can't tell them what happens.
And so know what happens. And so that next day is my daughter's.
And you have no idea how you're going to be portrayed, right?
Oh, yeah. What you'll look like.
So the next day it's my daughter's birthday. We're taking them to the beach. And I remember just being so sad because you like, oh, if we would have shown this differently, or if I would have, said this, or if we would have told our story, maybe we would have got a deal. And so, that you go through those emotions, and then after that it was fine. You come out of that and well, for me, like, you come out of that and then you pick up, and I mean, being an entrepreneur, right, it's just, all right, you're gonna get hit with so many no's, and then every now and then you get a yes, and you go with that, and you have to be able to pick yourself up, or you're just gonna be a failed entrepreneur because you're gonna bask in the sorrowness of something not working out. And so we're here today still talking on this, and we still have a business, so we've done all right. But that was the emotional roller coaster of going through it, like excitement. I'm about to walk out there.
We're going to kill it.
Battling with all the questions, and then walk out with defeat. And the next day, feeling down. But then from there, it's pick yourself up. And then, all right, just keep going back at it.
It was my brother's engagement party the next day.
Oh, no.
And so we're driving over to their house, right? And everyone knows that we were in LA taping for Shark Tank. So everyone's asking me, right? And I was just like, I had a smile on my face, and I'm like, hey, you gotta wait, until I know that we're not gonna air or we are gonna air. I'm not gonna say anything, and that was rough. And and my parents knew because I told them, obviously. I know you're gonna tell some people, right? Obviously, and my parents knew, and they were just like they were like, should we tell people? Do we not tell people? Like, they don't know how to feel about it because you don't know how you feel about it.
Remember we called our wives because our wives are part of it. They were on
didn't believe
Shark
us.
Tank, and they're part of our company. So we're obviously going to tell people in your company.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe. Like we called our wives.
And we're like, we didn't get a deal. And I have a sarcastic personality.
Yeah, I think we both have.
Yeah. So our wives were just like,
you guys are funny. Like, tell us what kind of deal did you get?
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
Yeah.
We didn't get a deal. And they're like, oh, they had bought celebration stuff to celebrate with too.
They did.
I think like my wife Brittany bought, because you guys don't drink, but like she had bought a nice bottle of like champagne and stuff. And it's like, I don't know if you ever seen that video of like this it's like the wife has bought 2 cakes where it was like it was like he's passing the bar and it's like F the bar, and then one is like congratulations, and he comes home. He comes home and she gives him, and he actually passed it, and she gives him the F the bar, and he's like, "What's this?" And she realizes it's the wrong one, so she puts it away and gives him that one. That's kind of the feeling of, but there was no like F Shark Tank or anything. It was just I think they thought we had a.
So what happened with us is our story's a little different too, because we didn't reach out to Shark Tank. Shark Tank reached out to us after our Kickstarter campaign.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
We had done quite well on that.
So we did really well on Kickstarter. We did really well on Indiegogo. We raised about $300,000 between both platforms, and then Shark Tank reaches out to us. And so we went in, and then every bar, like there's like hurdles, right? Mm-hmm. Every hurdle you're jumping over, and this last hurdle, everyone assumes at that point that you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because of how well you've done all the way through, right?
I must be the best one.
Yeah.
And you almost convince yourself, because you have to be prepared for like the counter, like what deals they're going to offer. So we went in for was it 200,000 for 20% or
10%? 10%.
And so you're like, okay, well, if Mr. Wonderful offers a royalty deal, what would we take? Or if they counter, like, what's the last we do? So you almost build yourself up to expect that they love your product and they're going to counter.
Yeah.
Well, we went in there, and then we're hit with
we got 50%.
By David.
and then David took it back.
But and he went to 40.
He did. He did.
That didn't air, but he went to 40.
But then it's like a lot different than what you thought you'd be negotiating.
Because we're like, because 40% wasn't in our plan.
No,
not even close.
Was not in the plan. Like, wait a minute.
I think our plan went up to 30%.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, at 30%, we're going to push hard, and we're not going to take 30%. We're going to, say no to 30%. We'll take it at 25, but not take it.
So
30.
by doing that, you almost convince yourself, like, okay, like, we're
worth this much.
We have control.
Yeah.
They're gonna love this idea because we had good numbers. Like we had done 300,000 on crowdfunding, which
that's big. Yeah,
it's big.
We did
but it's not
there, and we done almost. We had the Staples deal too.
We did, which
you were in every Staples, right?
Yeah,
we
but that by the time we got in the Staples, and by the time we got on Shark Tank, it wasn't going well for us with Staples.
Yeah.
We
were still new though,
and we were honest about the numbers.
We were honest about the numbers, but we were still new. So in Staples, we had just gotten, we were only in Staples stores for like 15 or 20 days.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. We weren't like in Staples like we had been in Staples forever. Because remember, you had the paper in your pocket, which was like, we're in Staples.
I did, because they've asked for the paper sometimes. They're like, let's see the PO. And I was like, I have the PO.
You had the PO.
They never asked for it.
Yeah, and so we had all these little gimmicks, right?
Yeah, but I mean, to our defense, and this is just I make myself feel better by saying this, is that we went into Staples at the end of COVID, when foot traffic was just starting to come back because people weren't going into stores at that time, and so and then selling our product on a shelf, there, we're selling it digitally is a lot easier because we could tell that story,
about what it is. It's a new product category. It doesn't exist already, right? So when people see it, they don't really know what it is just from afar. You're not going to go into Staples thinking, "Oh, I'm going to buy a mute bud." Mm-hmm. Like it just doesn't work that
Normally,
way.
you have an intention when you're going into Staples to buy something there, but on Shark Tank, you go in and you've almost you told yourself that I got the upper hand, like we're prepped and like we have these numbers, but things.
We're the sharks.
We're the sharks.
now.
But we were just tadpoles.
Yeah.
No. But it's still an enlightening experience. But going back to you, so you go in on Shark Tank, and you have your experience on there. If you want to talk about that, but also how you started to talk about like a little bit afterwards. But what do you do afterwards, gathering yourself, or just, you kind of mentioned earlier, but you came away with already just like, I am grateful for being on the show. So maybe you had a different approach coming out of it, where you were satisfied, where like I just said, oh, I came in thinking I was going to get a deal, and I was a little bit more depressed. What was yours?
Whew. So it's like like that. That's how I would see it. When I got out of the Shark Tank, I would say it felt like being there, I had such like high serotonin levels or something. I just felt like the best I've ever felt in my whole life, right? Then once I get off, it almost feels like it all comes down, and I'm like, just kind of like crashed and burned. Like, I tried, I really failed. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get a job. Is this the end of my business? What's going to be? So honestly, if we're being honest, like for a whole week, I probably just like moped around in bed and just like, like became a mummy. It's just like hard to get over. I remember my girlfriend saying like, "What are you saying?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "You're talking to yourself." And I was like, "Oh shoot!" I would constantly replay in my mind the Shark Tank, and I would like say what I would want to say. I'm like, I should have said this. I should have rebutted for the. And so it was kind of weird. Like after for a little bit, I was like, kind of bummed. But then I got back to like, look, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Not many people ever get to even get close to this. Like just even get to hear back from the Shark Tank. If I do make it on the Shark Tank, I'm going to still get that same publicity that I would have even if I got a deal. So just in my mind, I kind of saw it as like, I'm a smaller company. I got an opportunity to show off the copy keyboard, and hopefully the sales ring in when the episode shows. Yeah. So, it's got me to here. It's brought me to my version 2 keyboard, to my version 3 keyboard, which is a 4-button keyboard. And that one has select all, cut, copy, paste, and a volume knob. And it's Bluetooth finally, because all my people are asking for Bluetooth. We
know that request.
Yeah. All the computer peripherals. So I would say like for a little bit, I was kind of like almost disappointed in myself. Like I was thinking what you're saying, like, how am I going to show my family this? Like, they're just going to grill me. And so a little bit before it came time, I started inviting people over. Like it was a small party, like, maybe like my small family and a couple other friends. And I'm like, I invite this next person. I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of feeling good about it at this point. I'm like, I don't care if I got a deal or not. Yeah. I'm like, when would I ever have this chance in life? Ever?
We came to the same realization too. We were like, we threw a party, right? Yeah. And it was weird because there was some people at the party knew that we didn't get a deal, and others had no idea that we didn't get a deal. And it was a surprise for them. And we threw a party, and like I think some people were confused because they like some of my friends were like confused because they were like, you threw a party when you didn't get a deal? And it's like, yep.
Yeah.
We're celebrating. You know how hard it was to get on this show?
Yeah.
Like, we're celebrating that fact. Yeah, it was, and even, the media interest leading up to that, I don't know if for you in Fresno, but for us out here, we had local news stations and, newspapers, they wrote about us and being on there. And
it was cool.
It's cool, but it's also hard because you feel like they're so hyped for you. And
because once again, they don't know either.
They don't know either, and you can't share. And so they're pre-hyping you, and everyone's talking about you, and then afterwards it's like kind of radio silence because you almost feel like you've let them down because you have to be optimistic about it.
So for me, right, I worked at a pension fund, and we have about 2,700 employees here in Sacramento. Ooh. And our CEO of the pension fund did a call out about me being on Shark Tank. Oh. And so because they were like, hey, Parm's, because I worked with her before, and it was like, and Parm, who's, one of our, great employees, he's leaving, and he's, going to be the CEO of this new company that's going to be on Shark Tank on this weekend, and so make sure you tune in. And she didn't know if I was going to get a deal either. And I remember I'm like, man, I hope they're not going to be disappointed. But at the end of the day, I think for most people, right, people that know you, it's still a positive experience.
No, it is.
Yeah. So it's just.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I mean, me and Parm, grew up close together without knowing that, in cities that are nearby. He grew up in an even smaller city, and I grew up in a small town. And Facebook's really where like a lot of it, like everyone's invested at that point. Like any coach I've ever had or teacher I've had and classmate I've had, and everyone's invested. And I think they're all excited to see, you be on there and succeed. And even, years after, which I could say that now because I think we're years after, people be like, oh, the mute like button. And like, I haven't spoken to that person, since high school, and they remember that. It's given me cool opportunities too. I've gotten to go back and talk to the high school about entrepreneurship. I go, regularly now. I speak at my alma mater university about entrepreneurship and the steps that goes in there. So it's a really cool step in the whole process of entrepreneurship. It just put more in front of everybody. That like Shark Tank is
it's weird. You're kind of a public figure.
Yeah, it's the entrepreneurship stamp.
Yeah.
In terms of being on a show.
Yeah.
And so that part's been really cool. But with that, you deal with you have to keep the company going after Shark Tank happens. And I think Mr. Wonderful or Kevin or many sharks have talked about. I think him specifically has talked about how. Even I think Damon did too. Like you're gonna get that bump when you broadcast, but it's how you manage that afterwards, how you keep the business going. Because that Shark Tank bump's great, but it's not gonna last. It's not gonna last. And so how do you build a business out of that and continue from there, whether or not you get a deal or not? So that's something that we've luckily done, and it's being on that show led to other things. We got featured on CBS Good Morning America around the holiday time. Which was
crazy.
Huge for us. We woke up in the morning wondering who did what. Because it was like 6 a.m. on a Sunday around the holiday time, and sales, like, we'd never seen our sales go off like that before. And it's because David Hogue? Is it? Pogue, sorry. Pogue had featured us on his tech product recommendations for the holidays, national, on a Sunday morning. And so it exploded for us. And that simply was because he knew of us from the show. He sent us an email using his Gmail.
Yeah.
And we thought
we get a lot of emails. Yeah. So I don't know if you're in the same boat. After being a Shark Tank company, you get hit up by everyone and their mom, asking for different things. We get requests for money. We get requests for...
I got those ones. Yeah.
You get requests for free products and to sponsor things, and you just get all kinds of junk mail, but then you also get lots of cool things too. But it's all just mixed in, so it's hard to kind of filter. He emailed us using his Gmail. I took a chance on it, and because I was like, I have no idea. And then I watched his videos. I sent him some product. I forgot to tell these guys that we were going to be on CBS News, but I had no idea how much of an impact it was going to be, because when multiple factors kind of aligned for us in that moment. What happened was they aired us on CBS News. Amazon, it's the middle of Christmas. Amazon has a list. We hit the top. We were already I think we still are on the microphones list for the top 100 microphones, and so we were number 17 on the top microphones list, and we were new products.
Yeah.
For Launchpad, Amazon Launchpad. Yeah. And so we were the top 100 products for Amazon Launchpad. And so what happened was all those factors were kind of all those things were up in the air. And when that segment aired, it took our Amazon listing and it took us to number 1 in microphones. So we got number 1 in microphones category 10 days before Christmas.
What did you sell? What's your one-day sales?
Yeah, so we did in 12 hours. We did over $100,000 that day.
Yeah.
That's
so much that
for business.
So much that our competitor, because we sold out, our competitor saw a bump in their sales because
we sold out.
We sold out, and so people defaulted to, because there was 2 choices you had out there, basically us and them. And
they reached out to sell their company afterwards because they're like, if your sales are this level, right? Like, we want you to just buy our company. And we told them, we're like, this was like, obviously. Yeah,
we're like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like where he's like this.
Yeah.
And like, that bump in your sales is because of our airing on national news. Like, you can't pull the wool over our eyes.
It wasn't, it's not necessarily reflective of every day, but it was absolutely incredible. And we got to see what big companies do over and over again on a daily basis, right? So we were that big company. We were a Fortune 500 company with one product for 12 hours.
For 12 hours, yeah.
Keep it going. Watching
Yeah,
every sale.
yeah, and you know, when I was telling Tye, I was like, dude, if we had, you know, $2 million worth of inventory sitting here, you know, we would have kept it alive, because once you hit number one on that list, it feeds in on itself, right? Now people are like, oh, that's the number one product. Buy. You know, it's much easier to maintain your position than it is to fall off that list
Yeah.
and then try to work your way back up, because it takes us time to work our way back up on these lists.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was absolutely
But
incredible.
it's extremely hard, not only in this case, but I think even go back to Shark Tank, and you share a story about, you know, someone that you know that was, you know, possibly going to be aired on the show. But it's hard to predict the inventory needs that you need. Like you know, you give a certain amount of time of notice ahead of time. And so for us, after Shark Tank, we sold out. We didn't have enough, just like in the CBS segment, we didn't have enough, because you don't want to purchase all that inventory and then be left with it. And I think in the case of the story you mentioned, like, unfortunately, that person had inventory predicting that they could be on the show, and it just didn't work out in their favor. But that's the case, and Parm's huge. Like, I remember when we were on ABC, and that he's like, we're missing out on so much money, which is the case. But had that not been broadcasted, that wouldn't have been the situation. He's gonna argue with me on this one.
No.
Watch it.
No. So it was, we didn't know. We just didn't know how big that segment for CBS would be.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we aired on Shark Tank, everyone told us, we talked to like the CEO of Kodiak Cakes. We talked to all kinds of Shark Tank companies. We built like a profile of what we thought the sales were going to be for that period. And
Wrong.
then we were wrong. And so what we were wrong about was, we were wrong about how people watch TV. So in seasons 1 through season 10, you know, I would say that people watch TV. They would sit there, you know, on Friday and tune in live and watch it.
I don't even think it was on Friday. I think it was on like Tuesday or Wednesday at that time.
No, it was Friday.
Oh, it was
right?
always Friday?
It's
Oh,
Friday.
okay.
Friday.
I wrong.
Yeah, and then but now people watch whenever, right? And so when people watch whenever, you're not getting that big one-day bump. You are getting a one-day bump, but it's not as massive as it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So we talked to all these people. We didn't see that massive one-day bump.
Yeah.
We
And
saw
a lot of them were like 5-6 year ago companies too.
Yeah, and we didn't think
Yeah.
about that. It was just not a factor that we were considering. And so at that point, we were like, okay, this is the inventory we need. We think we're good. We get through that day. We're like, we're good. We don't need to buy more inventory, because we had our one-day bump. Well, the next day, our bump is just as big. And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah, you're thinking like, yeah.
okay, we're okay. This is just, you know, 1-2 day bump, right? You know? And then the third day, you know, we're still kind of up there. And then the fourth day, we're still up there. And we're like, oh, snap. This isn't going the way these old companies went. This is something different. So it took us 7 days before we realized that we need to place an order for inventory. But our inventory process takes 45 days to get inventory in stock. And so we ended up selling out in, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was Amazon that you guys sold?
No,
No,
we
it
weren't
was
on
like-
Amazon.
we
at
weren't
that
even on
time.
Amazon
That was
at the time.
Right
Direct.
after Shark Tank, just e-commerce website only.
Yeah, website only.
Yeah.
We were a fairly new company when we aired on Shark Tank. We were only 1 year old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still fresh.
We were fresh.
Um,
And so it was just incredible. And then when CBS did their segment, the Technoclaw segment, we immediately went to like, okay, so Shark Tank did this,
Yeah.
right? So CBS will also do this, right?
Yeah.
And so we had enough inventory to get through that that number. And the next thing you know, right, CBS does that in 12 hours. So what Shark Tank did for us in the course of like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
CBS did in 1 day.
And I think
And-
for CBS, it was also like, it's a holiday time. It's a recommendation.
And it was we were on Amazon at the time.
Yeah.
And so we hit those lists. So once you hit those lists, those sales were just killer, because it was just, you know, the segment aired live. No one was really watching that. We watched how many views the segment got.
You watched your little Shopify Globe or something?
Yeah, that too. But
Love
we
that
also,
globe.
I recorded
but we also.
I think you told me that to record the Globe that night. Might
Me?
have been you or somebody
No,
else.
I didn't know you at that time.
Oh, maybe.
Somebody else,
Maybe
but
somebody
smart.
else.
Yeah.
Record the Globe.
Record the globe. Yeah, and so we were watching all that stuff, and in that moment we were like, okay, this is insane, because this segment is positive coverage. So our Shark Tank coverage was somewhat positive, somewhat not positive. It was mixed coverage. The Technoclaw segment was 100% positive, and it was 10 days before Christmas, right at a price point where people buy stocking stuffers and gifts for coworkers and family, and it was
White
just
elephant price.
white elephant
Yeah.
price. It just
Oh,
it just
that's good.
hit.
Yeah.
It just hit. And, then, I am going to argue with you. I wish we had $500,000, $2 million, $3 million worth of inventory, because we would have killed it. We would have maintained it for at least probably through Christmas, and that would have been incredible.
For you, after, what was that like afterwards, being on Shark Tank, not just in general, you talked about a little bit how you felt afterwards, but in terms of the business aspect, like sales, I imagine you're packing all these by yourself still. I think at that point, luckily, we didn't have to.
No, we didn't have to pack.
We didn't have to pack. So
yeah, but for CBS, we still remember we hired people because the volume was so high. That's
true. You had to take the blanks.
We had to take the blanks and convert them over, and Amazon, our FBA, ran out. So Amazon FBA ran out in like 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then we had another. I don't even know how many units we had. Like.
Yeah,
5,000 or something, 4,000 units.
For you,
for inventory, because when you guys were when you're talking about that, I'm thinking like as far as my business, I would say like I'm really like cash strapped and really like, what do you call it, by the bootstraps? Yeah, bootstrap. So like for me, inventory always takes like 30 days. Sometimes, like you said, like 45 days. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like I'm in this revolving like byproduct, and then ship it to everyone that's kind of pre-ordered or bought it. Maybe I have some extra left, and then it sells out again. So then I need to go back and buy a bigger
chunk.
Chunk of inventory.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very slow moving just because I'm not like, I don't have credit. I didn't get a shark. So like at the point now, I'm ordering in quantities that are like still small. Like that's my biggest like, I guess, thing in business that I'm like stuck on right now. Mm-hmm. How did you guys get from like, I know you guys had like all the pre-sales on Kickstarter, but like what did you guys put in your own money, or how did you get you buy 6,000 units?
Did put in our own money, but
we almost went broke.
Yeah, well, so we put in our own money. No, not us people. The company. We each individual at the time, there were 6 individuals, put in 2,000 each. So there was 3 couples, 2 people, husband and wife, and originally
$12,000.
So $12,000. Okay. So $4,000 each couple is what we invested, and to this day, that's what we've only invested because we raised other money. So it's funny, like with crowdfunding, we made around 300,000, and even when we were on Shark Tank, we're talking about we've done $1 million in sales. People sometimes they think like that's just the money you have in the bank, right? Yeah. They don't. There's the
You've made it.
Yeah, you've made it. Like that's cash money, and you got it. But there's so many costs and operational costs and inventory-based companies. Always tell Brittany, my wife, I'm like, if we start another business, it's gonna be a service-based.
I'm always like software, SaaS, baby, SaaS.
Yeah. There's inventory between this and Brittany's baby apparel company. Like it's just you have to buy that inventory. That's kind of what you're alluding to here. Is that. You have to buy the inventory with the money you have available, and then you're sitting on that inventory. You sell it, and then it makes it hard unless you go out and take a loan, or if you put in, you have extra cash lying around to buy that inventory, and then you got to work on selling that quickly, and it's a never-ending cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
And so for us, we ran into that a couple of times, and
we almost went broke.
Yeah.
And so it was absolutely incredible. So what happened is we did the Kickstarter. We did 300,000 on Kickstarter. We got the contract with Staples, right? We had at one point, I think we had almost 400 something thousand sitting in the bank, and we're like, nice,
made it.
Yeah, we've made it. Yeah, here we go, And then next thing, we place our first order, and all of it's gone. And so it's like, what? Because we were paying so much more for inventory and you're paying for production costs, you're paying for testing, you're paying for molds, you're paying for all these little things you didn't account for. And the thing that got us was the international shipping. And so we ended up charging people a flat rate for the product. And so we sold the product at $25 and we sold it at $15 depending on how much you bought, right? And so if you bought 2 units, you got it at $25, and if you bought 100 units, you bought it at $15. Our cost for that first batch was closer to $15. And so when we sold a company 100 units, we lost money on that.
We lost money. Shipping.
And then shipping on top of that. And so now we're shipping product all over the world. What we charged people was I think $10 back in those days, and we're paying $16, $18. We're paying so much for international shipping, even when we're shipping direct. So all of this got said and done. We taped for Shark Tank. We're like super excited about that. We come back, we check our bank accounts, and we had like, I think, what was it, like $10,000, $20,000 sitting there, and that's it. And
After $400,000.
after $400,000 in sales, and we're like, oh, this is a disaster. We're not even making, our margin's not even 10%. And so it was like a hard lesson to learn really early on, like price, like what you charge for your product has to account for all the costs that you're going to have. And being a Kickstarter company, like I think a lot of Kickstarter companies make that mistake because they go through the process and they don't factor in all the other costs that you're going to have. And this is not paying wages. And no one was getting paid. We had a bunch of free labor from family and friends that came and helped out. This is not paying for warehouse space. We had one of Tye's friends who's lending us space, and so we were using his warehouse. All these other costs that we didn't have at the time, and we still were only left with a little bit of money.
Yes, but there are other costs that, like, we had a lot of legal fees that
Legal
we're paying
fees
because of patent
stuff.
So that stuff, it gets costly quickly. Lawyers are expensive.
Yeah. The structure of the business.
Structure
right?
of the business.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were stupid with our money. We didn't just go spend it all on Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Despite how
Round
often
table.
we went there, round table.
But it's just we didn't take into account all the costs that it was gonna what it was gonna take to run the business up front, and so when we got through that, I think we were left with a few $1,000s, and our third batch. So we ordered 8,000. Our third batch was only 4,000 units, and that was after me and you floated money, right?
Yeah.
And so we both
Keep it
floated.
going.
Yeah, I think. And how much did we float? Was it 15 each or
It was
10?
10 each,
10
I
each or
think.
something. So we
Yeah.
put in another $10,000 each just to float the company, right? Because after all the success, what other people would deem success, we didn't have any money left.
And granted,
so
we wanted to use our own money. That we could have explored the route of like going to get a business loan or even.
But
taking
it was hard because we
fun-
weren't even 1 year into business yet.
True, which is a fun fact. Even
Yeah.
if you've made or if you've generated over $1 million in sales and you don't have any tax documents, it's hard to get a loan.
It's hard to get a loan
because you can say like,
Oh.
look at our numbers on our bank or our Shopify or whatever we're using,
Yeah.
and they're like, that's cool. Like until we see tax docs, you're not getting a business loan. So
Yeah.
you have to. There was that time. That was that time.
That
where
was that time.
We couldn't because we tried.
Yeah.
And they're like, come back when you filed your first tax return.
Yeah,
then we can
because
talk.
what ended up happening was we started the company in September. We didn't get paid for that year because our Kickstarter ended in January, and so that rolled over to the next year. And
Yeah.
so we have a whole year.
So it was all startup costs
Right,
that
all
first
start-
year,
yeah,
which
yeah.
there's
There's no revenue.
no revenue.
Yeah,
in
and
the
that second year we
years.
had revenue, right? In our second tax year we have revenue, but but we're not going to get a loan until our third business year.
When you can
Right.
show big profits.
When you can show revenue, when you can show profits, right?
Yeah.
And so we had to operate, without outside funding, and had to float our own money. And obviously we paid ourselves back afterwards, right? Once it got done, but we had to operate in that way for almost 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Until we paid ourselves back.
Yeah.
And so it was incredible. But yeah, so you do all this stuff, and you get to the brink of like not making it, and then you get past that hurdle, and then it feels like whew, a relief. Okay, we've paid ourselves back. We're only in this, $4,000. The company's rolling. It's starting to make money now. That's different. That's like a new feeling because up until now, what felt like success before wasn't really success because you're shipping thousands and thousands of units, but you're not making any money, right? So what's the point, right? And so then now you're finally making money. Your price points are adjusted. Your margins are good. You've got everything kind of figured out, and you still make mistakes, right? And so it's like one of those things where you're still learning as you go.
We could talk about another time, but
Yeah.
the mistakes, shipping costly mistakes. Well, you talked about the small one.
Yeah.
There's a large one we made. There's other just costly
The
experiences.
tariff stuff. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
We just got duped by a major shipping company who quoted us something, and then when the time came,
Tariffs went into effect. Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they didn't quote us with the tariffs. And so we thought that this is what we were paying. We were like, is this absolute? We asked them like 10 times.
which normally we go with our regular manufacturer shipped to us, but we thought, all right, we're gonna save money using this company, and they misquoted us, not the tariffs, and then it came, and then they're like, you owe us this money. It was like, that's not what you told us, and they said, we don't care. We'll turn you into collections if you don't pay us, and
lesson learned. We learned a lot of lessons.
Lesson learned, $10,000 lesson learned,
Yeah.
which is a lot of money. You know,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much an inventory, that's
Yeah.
that's X amount of inventory you can get. So, it's been there's just a lot to running a business and running a successful business and keeping yourself afloat. And this is why there's all those stats out there, right, on how often businesses fail, because there's just a lot to it, like a lot of things you don't. We're not gonna paying taxes. Nobody ever thinks about, you're a profitable company, and we're in the state of California, so we got to pay our dues, and then you have to pay your dues to other states, which
where you
talked
sell
about
product
this earlier, where you sell. Yeah, I think it's over 200 units in a lot of states, or $100,000. It varies, but that's usually the common one. As soon as you hit those numbers, luckily if you use a tool like Shopify, it lets you know.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah.
But you know how painful it is to go
and
register yourself on these antiquated state systems, and then hopefully they work, and then they're quick to remind you though that you owe them money. So once you're in there, they want that money. But going back to your original question, it's for us, we put our money in with belief in the idea. We did well on crowdfunding. We had things along the way. Staples giving us a PO, believing in us. The aftermath of Shark Tank, and then us after that building a company where people wanted the product, being on news segments. A lot of just a timeline of things that have helped.
It was a lot of fun, and it was just a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
So it was like things were happening so quickly in those early days, right?
Yeah.
And now still things are happening quickly, but now they're kind of like a little bit more secretive, right? So like every day we're working on something, or we're doing something, but now it's like, oh, that's a business thing. We can't like openly share that. But back in those days, it was like everything was like out in the open, and it was completely transparent, and it was just crazy how fast things were accelerating. Yeah.
So you've built your business, you're a successful business using social media. There we go.
Socialist media.
No, not that. But especially on the TikTok platform. I sound like on the TikTok platform. On TikTok. Yes. And that's something that we mentioned earlier in this podcast. We're not experts on, but you are a complete expert on. And so, what's the way to have a product on TikTok that makes it successful? Or we got to see you in action earlier, create a video,
make a little video here.
That was cool. That was cool.
A video
it was like,
that's going to be a 7-second video, and it was a lot to make a 7-second video, but there's success, and you've had success with that. And we're sitting here,
but it was skill, right? There was skill. I was like, oh my god, I can't do this.
He's like, I can't do this, and then I was like, oh, I could do it, but I have to watch you. I have to learn from you first, and then I'll be able to emulate it. But talk about how you continuously create content about one single product.
Yes, I've had a lot of success early on. I watched those YouTube videos, those guys talking about metrics for TikTok. And although I can't say like if they're correct or not, I kind of live by this metric that if you make a 7-second TikTok video and you get 100% watch time on it, it's going to go viral. You're going to get 1 million views on it. So when I make videos, more than less, like I'm aiming for 7 seconds and an eye-catching video, something with good quality. So I've found after making a lot of TikToks that it's kind of repetitive after a while, and sometimes you're going to make the same video. My famous one is kind of just like having the camera right here and just clicking it up and then showing the screen. Like that's like really what I do, and it's not really anything anyone else could do. So
thinking of ideas for the video.
I'm blank over here.
No, but simple is better sometimes.
It is, and simple is pretty. That's all you really need, as long as it's a little eye-catching video. It's got to be 7 seconds. Just cut the fluff, and that's what I aim for every single time. I heard it said like sometimes when you're advertising your product, you do want a longer video because you want to educate the person on your product, and you want to show them really the features and benefits they're going to get from it. And so making a 7-second video can't always capture all that in one. You can't talk and such, but you are able to give the customer like an idea of what even is it, or like what could I use this for in just quick 7 seconds. And once you make a couple of those videos, those are going on their For You page, and they're going to see them 2, 3, 4 times until they they're like, oh, I know that guy. He was on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've seen his keyboard. It's the only keyboard out there that looks like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a similar way, like that's what I aim for. I just try to make something that looks good, like at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to see when I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh, 4K video, like extra bright, and like I'm like, I'll watch it, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, I mean that does. When I do see a video, I'm like, oh, this person, like they must have a crew.
Yeah.
They gotta set up like they hired someone
This is too good.
this
Too
is
good.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to aim for. So I like the saying, picture's worth 1,000 words, while a video's worth 1,000,000. So that's
Yeah.
what I aim for. Make a good video that's just short, simple, plain to the point, and that's what it seems like the TikTok people like, is like very limited attention span.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I saw you, right? That 7-second video, you got 3 different or 4 different shots in 7 seconds, and I was like, "How are you? What?"
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
how fast your mind's moving though. Like
Yeah.
you've seasoned yourself, right? You got it down. You started
You
somewhere.
gotta
Like for us, like we're staring at you in awe in terms of like, okay, you're staring at him like I'm never gonna be able to do this.
Yeah.
I'm staring at you like, okay, like I got to learn how to quickly recognize what he just recognized, and that takes time and experience and trial and error, right? I think.
yes, a lot of trial and error. Like I didn't get to say this on the Shark Tank, but I've created over like probably 300 videos just on TikTok alone. You won't see all those on there because some of them, some of them weren't great, and I just posted. And I'm like, I really shouldn't have posted that.
Yeah.
But you'll kind of see like my TikTok is different than other businesses or a typical storefront, in the sense that I'll post stuff that's not copy keyboard. Like you'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
stuff I'm posting of other Shark Tankers. You'll see
It's
stuff.
you.
Yeah.
It's just me.
It's
Yes.
just you. Yeah.
And it seems like that's kind of where like social media is headed.
Yeah.
I always thought like this was probably like in I'd say like 2017 when I was working my e-commerce job as a manager. My big thing was like they wanted to make a website and they want to sell all these products on the website, but the problem is you can't drive traffic to just a website
Yeah.
unless you have a bunch of people viewing something that makes them want to go there. So instantly when I started my business, I thought like I got to be able to figure out how to go viral on social media because I don't have all the money to spend on advertising like a big company would.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, you're ahead of the game in terms of thinking that way. Because I mean, now, everyone, that you got to go viral is a common thing that everyone hears. And everyone's trying, and there's still mass opportunity to go viral, but there's a lot more people competing for that audience.
Yeah.
Rather than early on, and so it's we're sitting here before this podcast, picking your brain. For 2 different companies, because what we're trying to do is we want to put the story behind us. So we want to do what we didn't do on Shark Tank, right? We want to tell the story and also be educational along for anyone that's trying to do hardware or software in terms of lessons learned and everything. But I think to your point, like what your TikTok is like it's I saw Gary Vee said this. It needs to be 99% educational or entertainment, 1% product, and I think that's what you offer in doing yours, because especially on TikTok and maybe even YouTube Reels or YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, people want to see quickly. That's where your 7-second comes in. Eye-catching. All right, I like this person. I like this person's energy. This is funny, or what can I learn from this? Like the top 3 things you need to know about starting a business on Shopify.
Yeah,
Something like that. Because I could say myself, if someone starts talking and they don't tell me the point straight up in the beginning what I'm going to learn,
you just skip.
I'm like, all right, next.
Next. Yeah.
So lesson learned for us. I got to make sure we do that. But that's really cool that you continuously build that platform, and that like you have a unique approach where you went viral first. That's how you built your business, and it's a great way if you don't have money to get sales,
Get started. Yeah.
For the starting businesses. And
Yeah.
instantly, like this is what I did. I only bought 2 products. That's like $20 to me. You know what I mean? Anyone
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it customized. Right underneath here was just one of those little strips that you can print out with the label maker. It's
Yeah.
a copy/paste.
Yeah.
And I put it in a little like Ziploc, not a Ziploc bag, but one of those kind of black product bags.
Yeah.
I posted a video. I said, hey, if any of you guys are interested in the copy and paste keyboard, let me know. I'll facilitate it through PayPal. We'll just do a deal and I'll ship it to you.
So not even a Shopify site or anything.
Nothing. Just
Wow.
straight up.
Just here's
Straight
a
up
product.
PayPal. Wow.
Straight up trust.
Yes, yes.
Just
But I had enough
buyer
followers.
protection on this one.
But it
Is this
was-
someone you know?
Yeah,
No.
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 Friends and family. No.
No.
Not quite.
But it just like in my head, if I could never even sell 2 products of an item, then I could never sell 10 or 100 or 1,000 or anything.
Well, that's
from there.
that's inspirational because it's like get started, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You got to do it in order to let the market's going to tell you whether or not you have something or you don't have something.
And you're gonna know down the line too. Is this job gonna be easy? Like, are you posting 5 videos and you made 1 sale, or is it every time you post a video you got 5 sales? You know how
Yeah.
long?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to be in advertising and marketing forever, is what I think for my business.
No,
I'm
it's
like,
true. It's true.
Yeah.
Something
I-
we're working on, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what you said is 2-part inspirational. One is if you have a product and you want to get it out there, get it out there and see what the market says.
Yeah.
2 is going through the sales channel that you did, which was making something viral. Is if you create content, post it. Just get it out there, and then you'll learn what works and what doesn't work. Brittany, if I went and looked at how many drafts she has, it's significantly more than she's posted, and that's something that goes in terms of like just being willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are afraid of failure.
Well, because it feels like public failure.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. And I mean,
What's on your
especially
ears?
like
Oh.
like we're successful and what we believe is successful. You're successful in ways that's farther than most people have gotten to. And like if you go look at our YouTube Shark Tank episode, like we're just getting grilled on there, just destroyed. I think someone came out with they cut up some of our Shark Tanks and threw it on
Oh, like a failed blog
on
or
TikTok.
something.
On
Come
TikTok. No, on
on.
TikTok. And I
Yeah.
remember going through that, reading the comments, and at first I thought they were funny. My wife's laughing at them.
Yeah.
And I was like, stop laughing at them. Which they were funny. That's just the nature of it. So you have to be willing to take that kind of,
Criticism.
Twitter fingers or fingers behind the post, because people, it's easy to talk crap on anything. Just like in the sports world, like you're a fan of your team and you could have made the best decisions for your team that week. Once you know the knowledge after it happened, you're like, well, if I would have done this, but it's just it's doing it, getting the product out there, getting your content out there right away, because that's just the way marketing's going in the world today is content creation, educational entertainment.
We were talking about that earlier today, but it seems like all the content creators out there are going out and now creating products, right? So they have
yes.
followings and they're going out there and they're creating products and they're trying to get into the product space because they want to do something more than just content creation. All the small companies like us are trying to get into the content game, right? So
backwards.
it's all backwards, right? And so because we are like, hey, look, we're spending $10 per unit on customer acquisition costs. That's like one of our largest costs. We spend $20,000, $30,000 a month on advertising. We need to bring that number down. And they're like, hey, look, we have 2 million eyeballs,
Yeah.
3 million eyeballs,
Yeah.
10 million eyeballs.
$0 spend.
$0 spend.
Here's
Yeah.
our new
Here's our new
product.
product.
$500,000
Here's
in sales.
Yeah. We want to pitch this and do this, right? And so like each side is converging, and I feel like that's where we're headed as small entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And young entrepreneurs, because
I-
that's go.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I could be proven wrong here, but I do think that model, unless you're like a Mr. Beast or something, for those influencers out there, once they come out with a product, it's similar to the Shark Tank effect. You have this initial build up where everyone's like, I want to be part of this, but it's how you maintain after that. Because then they've purchased your product and they got a taste of it, but now you need to build customer loyalty, which it's going to have that fall down, and you still it's still much easier path into retaining customers, but you still have to continuously get them to come back and buy it, because people want that initial, especially and we have experience with Brittany and with her brand and her baby apparel brand, that we do a lot of collaborations with influencers, and so people want to purchase it and they want to say, I have this limited collection. Well, what if it's not a limited collection? If it's just continuously there, then it takes away that
It loses its value.
it uses the value of
Yeah,
uniqueness
yeah.
of like, oh, I'm one of the only of 1,000 people that got this. Well, now that product's always for sale, so you're less likely to want to post it because you don't or like that regular follower doesn't want to post it because they don't feel special.
Yeah, and customers don't remember everything, right? So like top of mind stuff doesn't stay top of mind forever. And so when a customer is going out there and they're buying something and they're buying, one of your products, right? They're thinking about your product in that moment. After that, they're not thinking about your product anymore, right? Influencers, on the other hand, right, they have like this channel where they're constantly pinging that person over time, especially if it's someone that you follow. So if it's like content that you're consuming on a regular and ongoing basis, they get in front of you over and over and over again. And I feel like that in itself, right, leads to like longer, better sales, right? Because they're iterating. And I know I follow like these tech YouTubers, and like this one guy, he created his own sneakers, and it's like he has nothing to do with tech, has nothing to do with anything, but he has like this color theme going, has a design theme going, and he decided to create his own sneakers. And I'm like, I wonder how well these are selling, because I'm actually super curious, right?
I always wonder too when they do.
Yeah, and then this other guy, they created their own screwdriver to open, because like he has like a technology channel also where they're always opening up electronics, and like he created his own screwdriver. And this other one guy, he created his own fix-it kit for cell phones, because he has all these phone repair kits, right? And he's always doing these phone repair videos. And so each one of these folks is now like product people, right? Their business instantly overnight. Yeah. And it's just, it's so crazy, like that's how the worlds are converging, and that's how things are moving forward. And I always think, like, I wonder how well and how successful these guys really are, because it's easy, like what Tye said, right? It's easy for them to, even for themselves, are they getting that one-time bump where it's like, hey, initially all their followers are like, or not all, but like a lot of their followers are like, oh, that's cool, I want to buy this, and they buy it? Or are they getting sustained revenue from these products that they create? I don't know, right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not an influencer yet.
yes.
Yet. After paying the influencers, I want to be one, but
yeah.
A lot of them do put they've been doing it for like since 2013, 14, 15, and putting their time in to get to that point. And so the long journey for them. Plus, you got to share a lot of your life. A lot of your life. But you're an influencer at the same time too, in terms of your TikTok success. So going in to, if you're to summarize, like someone's out there and you've given advice around TikTok especially, it's if you were to say one big piece to take away from, all right, I want to be successful with a product on TikTok or any social media, what would it be?
Yeah, if you want to be successful on TikTok and you want to specifically go on TikTok and launch your product, I think the biggest thing might be just starting. Like for me, I get this like constant, like I know I have a new project to do, but I just can't even do it. And so like once I started posting this, after 2 or 3 times, like you're not going to get 1 million views your first, second, or third time. Like you just won't. So just being able to post it and just say, like, mentally, who cares what happens here? I don't care if my friends see this, whatever. It's a goofy video. It's a TikTok. That's what it's here for. People dance on here and do stuff, Like, just being able to release your mind from that.
Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, just try to post it, get your first one, get your second one out there. And by the third one, you're learning a lot more. You already know what people like or what they don't like. If no one comments on your video, or if nobody even likes your video, I don't think people will probably like that content. So try something else. So,
makes sense.
Kind of like A/B testing.
Makes sense. So one big piece of advice, business in general, you've gone through this path of creating Copy Keyboard. You went on Shark Tank. You're still building this company with new versions. Looking back, what's the one piece of advice you have about just building a company?
You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of no's, and a lot of people are going to tell you your idea is not good. And like it might even be friends and family. And so it's very hard in that sense. And so like my thing about
I love that, by the way.
Is like, but you can add on to this. When I was on the Shark Tank, this is the one thing I regret about being on the Shark Tank. At the end, when they filmed, like a little bit of roll and, you talk after, the one thing I said is I proved to myself I could do this by myself. But I get my words mixed up sometimes. What I meant to say was, like, I proved to myself I could do this, but like in my mind, it sounded like I said, like, nobody helped me here. Like, in reality, I had a lot of people that told me, no, it's not a good idea. But in actuality, those are the same people that are helping me and supporting me and, you know, putting money or backing behind it, or, hey, what can I do for you? You know, when should we come over for the packing party? You know, we'll bring the nieces and nephews, you know, everyone's going to get in there. So it's like, the one big thing is, even those people that like you don't think support you, they really support you. And those are the people that are continually pushing you, because they're the people that are actually talking about your product. So I'm going to say, like, you got to have a little bit of thick skin, but once you get past that point and keep going.
Seems like the common theme here.
Thick
skin, right?
No, because like I absolutely love that, because our product is both loved and hated. And so there's people out there that are like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Why would anyone want this? Why would anyone need this? I have a mute button on my screen, you know, whatever. And then I can hit the space bar and, you know, I can do it, right? And it's hilarious because there's those people, and then there's people that go online and argue with those people like, hey, I have this product, I absolutely love it, I absolutely think this is amazing, and then they get called out for being like trolls, right? Or like, you guys, how much did Mute Me pay you? You know, it's like, this is hilarious, right? Like either you know, Mute Me has money because we're successful and we're a company and people want our product, therefore your argument is invalid, and then we can pay people to be, you know, our paid shills, or we don't because, you know, we're not successful and nobody wants our product. You can't have it both ways, right?
Have a product that's controversial. It'll help you on social media.
Yeah, and you know, and I always I told this to, I don't remember who it was a long time ago, but I was like, think of the iPhone, right? It's probably one of the most successful, it is actually one of the most successful products of all time. Think about how many people hate the iPhone.
Or like despise Steve Jobs.
I just hate the iPhone, right? I'm an Android user for life. I hate the iPhone. I will never use an iPhone. Blah 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 blah. Right? It's locked down. It's stupid. It doesn't have all these features that I want. Right? All this shit, and it's one of the most successful products of all time. Right? So just because your product is hated doesn't necessarily mean that your product's not successful, right? And those are two different things. And it took me a little bit of time to figure that out for myself, because when people first hated on the product, I took it personally, because I'm like, I created this thing. People tell me they like it all the time, and I would get defensive, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it's very easy.
It's very
like
easy.
Your company.
Yeah, it's my company, and I'm like, this is, you know, our thing, and you know, this is how we did it. And then just a little while later, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? These people don't know what they're talking about, right? That's okay.
I had to stop you from responding on social media posts. I had to be like, Parm. Let me respond. Now you're really
My girlfriend will be
now he's
responding
good.
online, defending me.
Because I was like, no, these guys are stupid. Like, they don't know what they're talking about. And at the end, and because I'm like, we sold like 40,000 of these Tye, and this is like, you know, a year ago, right? I'm like, we did over $1.2 million last year. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, what other businesses can do that?
No, if we're only like 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
And so I would get defensive about it, and then I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? This is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is this controversy that this you know, and we talked about it a little bit earlier with our ads, right? This controversy helps drive engagement on our ads. That creates, you know, that brings down our ad costs. It helps, you know, helps our customers go argue for us and make the case for us, which builds credibility, right? It's a good thing. Let's leave this as is, and let's just roll with it. But it took a while to get there, so I love that point.
Thick skin.
Thick skin.
Thick skin. You gotta have it. Lots of no's, but so, you know, Scotty, appreciate you coming and talking about it. I mean, we can talk forever, especially about Shark Tank and well, just business in general. There's so much to it, but you know, really appreciate you coming up here talking about this, man.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a little while coming.
Thanks for coming, man.
You know, it's you know, not a short drive up here up good old 99 there, but no, it's cool just to hear other people's perspective of how they went, especially through Shark Tank, entrepreneurship in general. But you know, hoping that we'll bring on more Shark Tank people. May not be in person because they're all spread out, even if we get them on a call and stuff like that. But just to kind of hear about that experience and collectively how people worked leading up to it, how they're working afterwards,
and how they're doing now, right?
And how they're doing now.
One of the big things about Shark Tank is they tape it, and if you get a deal, you may get one of those segments after the fact of like, how are they? Where are they today?
You said Scrub Daddy, right?
Oh yeah,
on
right.
yours,
Scrub Daddy,
which is like the ultimate.
Yeah.
How are they doing now?
Yeah.
Because Scrub Daddy's, I think, is their most successful. Are they
Scrub
number
Daddy,
one or number two?
Bombas, Scrub
Bombas,
Daddy.
yeah.
They're all up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the most successful technically is Ring.
Oh, boy, they didn't get a deal.
They didn't get a deal.
True.
Doorbot, yeah.
True. We get a lot of crap for that because at the end of ours, we're like,
I know.
we're the next
We're the-
Ring.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people just crush us on social
I
media.
thought that was great.
But whatever.
Yeah.
It helps. So
Yeah, but yeah, so like after people want to know what happened after the tank, and that's like I think one of the things that something like this podcast can do, where we tell that story after we bring the entrepreneurs back, we talk to them, we engage with them, and you get to tell your story, right, unedited, right, for the full hour and a half.
what happens after?
What
no?
happens? Yeah, what happens after
Yeah.
no? What happens after yes? Right, and that's like a cool part of having having your own ability to put our own content out there, right? And so
I like it because it's cool to learn from like a bigger business, because I just got off Shark Tank January 27th, so it's fun to see like a bigger business and how you've like scaled it from Shark Tank and like where you are now. I'm like, it just kind of like almost like keeps the dream alive for an entrepreneur. Once you see somebody else doing it, you're like,
yeah, and so one of the things is moving out to this business park, and I told Tye this earlier, right, was like inspirational for me because we were in the garage for the longest time, and as soon as we got here, I was like, oh snap, this company next door makes computers for the Air Force, right? They make like for the AWACS aircrafts, right? This company right across the way, they're a pharmaceutical company, they ship product all over the world. Like I'm like, that's badass,
We make new buttons for the aircraft too.
Yeah.
I just
You know what? Actually, I can't say it, but we have some good contracts, right?
We do.
Yeah, so it's pretty legit.
NDAs.
NDAs, yeah. But with all the when you see other people doing stuff, it's inspirational and it helps you keep going because you wake up in the morning, you see other people doing, creating things, making things, building companies, right? It's inspirational. So
and it's not like competing against other business people. It's like being part of the game, sort of.
Well, yeah, it's a struggle, right? And you see other entrepreneurs and you realize that we're all playing a similar game. And we talked about this on one of the other podcasts, but like unlike other games, right? This is one game that is like relentless and it's unlimited and there's no like limits to it. Right? And so like LeBron James, and I said this before, so I'm going to quote it again, but LeBron James is not going to score 200 points in one basketball game. It's just not going to happen. There's an upper limit of what he can do in one game. But with business, you have no limits, right? You can push it as much as you want, as little as you want. There's no breaks. There's no timeouts. You have to keep going. And that's what is just absolutely something that I love about business because it takes it takes all of your skills and it puts them to Tye has all kinds of skills, right? Everything from physical strength. I'm just going to.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I just missed that. You listening,
right?
Brittany?
To shooting basketballs now, right? But you know what I mean? Like he has
Yeah.
marketing skills, right? He has relationship skills. All these skills, he has to employ all of them, right, actively in order for this business to be successful. And that's unlike anything else that's out there. So I just absolutely love entrepreneurship, and I love talking to entrepreneurs and bringing people here and getting to engage because it is motivating. So you're motivating us too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sweet. All right. Well, appreciate it.
Hands in or what?
Heads.
Yeah.
Those ones are what?
1, 2, 3, money. Shark Tank.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye,
Comment,
guys.
like this. No.